like to pronounce this name. Professor Maria del Carmen Lopez Escribano. How did I do? Great. Okay. So, from Madrid, and she's going to present for the next 45 minutes. Then without a break, I'll be the last one. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I'd like to thank you. Is it better now? Yeah. I'd like to thank you, Professor Smith, and also Professor Katzi, for inviting me to this interesting conference. I am going to present a study we have done with the Reading Acceleration Program in Spanish with children with dyslexia. I try to be brief because I know we have had a long day and we are tired, so I'll try to be brief. I'll present, let me present first an introduction of the reading research in Spanish and dyslexia research in Spanish, and I will also present some training fluency programs in Spanish, and then I will present the experiment we have done with the Reading Acceleration Program on training reading fluency and comprehension with children with dyslexia. I have to say that reading research in Spanish has followed the same trends as in English. In the first moment, research was centered on accuracy and phonological processing, and currently there are more studies related to fluency, like studies related to other variables like prosody and rapid automatized naming and reading rate. So first, studies on phonological awareness appear on the 19th. I have to say also that in Spanish we have much less studies than in English on reading, and they have appeared later, they have been published later on time. So studies in Spanish has followed studies in English, I have to say that. So first studies on phonological awareness were published during the 19th, and there is a current study by Leal and Suro, which is a very good review of phonological awareness tests in Spanish. So if any of you work with a Spanish-speaking population, this is a good paper to look at, because you can find there all the phonological awareness tests in Spanish. It's a comprehensive review and a very good one. Even though the paper is written in Spanish, but the references are there. So if you need to use one of these tests, the references are there. Later studies have shown that children in Spanish read accurately. They don't have problems with decoding, and they have problems with decoding unusual words or non-words, but not with frequent words. They don't have decoding problems. After 1 year of training, they can decode pretty well, because Spanish is a very transparent language for reading. Well, this is a table of the study by Leal and Suro I just mentioned on the phonological awareness test. This is one of the tables. In this row, you can find all the phonological awareness tests in Spanish, and it's a very good and comprehensive. I think they have reviewed all of them, all of the tests. In Latin America and North America and in Spain. It's a good review. And so here you have all the tests, and then in this column there are the different tasks, phonological awareness tasks, and you see there is like a growth showing that the tasks that every test has. So it's like a lesion or different phonological awareness task. The main problem in Spanish, the main reading problem or the main reading problems in Spanish are reading fluency, and there are many papers now on reading fluency, and also spelling, because Spanish is a transparent language for reading but not for writing, because we have several letters with the same sound. So when you read them, it's easy, but when you have to write them, you have to know which letter is in this word. And we have many of them. So spelling is a problem for our children. As I said before, now we have more studies on other variables that are not related or not closely related to phonological processing. And we have studies and studies in prosody showing that stress sensitivity may affect fluency, and also showing that stress sensitivity is a good predictor of reading acquisition in Spanish. And recently we have done a review of studies in rapid automatized naming that will be published at the beginning of the next year. And we found 26 studies on rapid automatized naming and in Spanish. And we also found 6 standardized tests on rapid automatized naming in Spanish with different populations. And the main conclusions of these studies are that, of these 26 studies, are that round letters is a good predictor of reading in the first years of school, that RAN is the best predictor of reading speed in Spanish, and phonological awareness and RAN are different predictors of reading. This is one of the main conclusions across all over the studies. And RAN is a very sensitive measure for us. This RAN discriminates quite well between different types of readers, like, for example, in different sociocultural backgrounds or readers with difficulties. So it's a very convenient measure for us because it's easy to use and quick, and discriminate quite well in our language between different types of reading. And the last conclusion is that children with double deficit are the most impaired readers. And these are 2 of the graphics of the paper that will be published next year. We did different tables, and for example, this one is on studies on rapid automatized naming and reading children from different cultural backgrounds. And then here we have the 6 standardized tests we have found. In fact, they are subtext. I mean, they are in batteries, 4 batteries, and there is a subtest on RAN on these batteries. They are standardized in different populations, some of them in Latin America and some of them in Spain, and some of them also with Spanish-speaking population in the States. So as we have seen, and as many of you mentioned these days, dyslexia is caused by different variables. There is not just one variable that produces dyslexia, and this is important for assessment and for intervention. And I reviewed also the training fluency programs in Spanish. Paradoxically, Spanish is, children don't have problems with accuracy, but most programs in Spanish, most training reading programs are on accuracy, almost all of them. And I looked at to see if there were programs in Spanish to train fluency, and I just found these 4 references. The three first ones are on repeated reading approaches. So they train children with the repeated reading technique. And then I found an intervention that used the repeating reading technique, but also accelerated training, like phonological awareness, that they mix different approaches to train reading. And then there is a commercial software application called La Pizarra Dinámica, the dynamic blackboard, that was designed by a language therapist, and he presented this application, like, I don't remember, 4 or 5 years ago. It's a standalone application. I captured some screens of that. And the principle is also accelerated training. In both routes, the lexical and the sublexical route. So these are the programs on training reading fluency I found in Spanish. And now I am going to present the study we have done with the reading acceleration program. I call it a RAP, with 12 children with dyslexia. In this point, I'd like to thank you, Professor Presnit, for allowing us to use this program. And also I'd like to thank you, Benny and Einat, for helping us in the implementation of the program and being there all the time, answer all the questions we had. So the participants were 12 primary students for the same school. This school is the only one in Madrid for children with learning disabilities. So it's like an experimental school. Children with dyslexia and dyscalculia and attention deficit disorders are the children that go to this school, and they have a special methodology for them. So all the 12 children are from the same school, from this school. The mean age was 10 years and 7 months, and we had 6 4th graders and 6 5th graders, 8 male and 4 female. These children were diagnosed with dyslexia 1 or 2 years ago as having the accuracy, the coding difficulties, but right now only 2 of them have the coding difficulties, and 5 of them have reading rate difficulties, and 10 of them have severe spelling problems. Because as I said before, you need a big mental orthographic lexicon to write well in Spanish, because we have many letters with the same sound, and these children have special problems in spelling and on reading rate too. But as you see, only 2 of them currently have problems with the coding. Well, this is a picture of the school where we do the training. Some of these are the kids that participated in the study. And we used we adapted and translated an English version of the reading accelerated program, meant for children from grade 2 to grade 7. And we adapted this version to Spanish from Spain, and we also adapted a Mexican version. We have these 2 versions that we will be happy to share with any of you. Well, This reading accelerating program consists in 600 items, so 600 sentences, in 20 units, 20 sessions, each session with 30 sentences. So there are the sentences with one multiple choice comprehension question, and then the 3 possible answers. They did all the 20 units in 1 month. So every day they did a unit, and they spend like 30 minutes. It depends on the child, but more or less like a mean of 30 minutes. And the first and the last session consisted in the self-paced and the fast-paced test. So we have a fast-paced pre and post test. Well, I think as many of you know, the first training session generates a reading rate for each individual, and then the sentences are presented with the first letters of the sentence disappear. They disappear depending on the reading rate. I have here an example of our program. This is the program we used in Spain, but as I said, we have also a Mexican version of this program. Well, our paradigm was that the children answers were correct in 10 sentences, 100% correct. The increased reading rate at 2%. And if they had 1 or 2 incorrect answers in a row of 10 sentences, reading rate kept the same. And if they had more than 2 errors in a row of 10 sentences, reading rate decreased in this case 3% each time. As I said, we have a pre and post self-paced and fast-paced test. And also, children took paper and pencil pre and post test to see if they were profit or if the effects were translated outside, were generalized to real reading. And the tests we used were run letters and pseudo-word reading accuracy and time, and per word or oral reading time in a text and decoding errors. And we also use an orthographic choice task like a spelling task with 3 words that the sound is the same. If we read this in Spanish, zanahoria, 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 the reading is the same, but only one is correct, is graded correct. And we also use a reading comprehension and speed of connected text, and we used also the symbol search task of the WISC. So I will present the results in 3 parts. I will present first the results on the sessions, and then I will present the results on the fast-paced test, and finally I will present the results on the behavioral measures. As you can see in these graphics, 4 out of the 12 children were accelerated, slightly accelerated, and 8 of them were decelerated because their comprehension level were below 80% of correct responses. So they kept decelerating across the sessions, and 4 of them were accelerated. So 4 children were proficient comprehenders, and the other 8 were less proficient. Let's say they were less proficient comprehenders. If we see the results of the fast-paced pre and post-test, what we can see is that the 2 groups, the proficient comprehenders and the less proficient comprehenders, increased reading rate of the fast-paced post-test. But only the less proficient comprehenders increased reading comprehension. Increased reading comprehension in the fast-paced post-test. These graphics, I think, are more clear about what I am saying. About reading rate, we have here the 2 groups. So the 2 groups in the fast-paced post-test increased reading rate, both groups. And then about reading comprehension, the good comprehenders, slightly reduce a little bit their reading comprehension at the post-test. But for the less proficient comprehenders, what I think is very interesting, they really improve at the fast-paced post-test, their reading comprehension. Probably because they have more ceiling to improve. This group has more ceiling to improve than the other group. And I have to say also that these children have problems with spelling, but they don't have problems with reading comprehension. The whole group is on the mean if you compare their scores with tests, with norms of the test. So they don't really have reading comprehension problems. But still, these 8 children really gained in speed and on reading comprehension score. And here are the results on the behavioral measures. And if we see the mean score of all of these measures, I have to say that they are, if we compare this score with the mean score of the test, they are more or less in the norms, in the mean, except in spelling, that they are below, probably 2 standard deviation below the mean. And for example, in the pseudo-word reading time, as you can see for the standard deviation, the groups is very variable. So there is a great variability in the group in terms of reading rate. And at the post-test, what we saw is that they significantly gained on round letters and pseudo-word reading time, and on the symbol search task. So it seemed that they all gained in speed task or visual processing task, and we didn't find gains in reading comprehension or spelling. Well, what we conclude after doing this experiment is that children with dyslexia, with reading disabilities, can push to read faster with improving their reading comprehension, as we saw with the fast-paced post-test. So they read faster, and their reading comprehension score was higher. the training was more effective for the group of less proficient comprehenders in terms of gaining in comprehension, even though they were not accelerated, because if you remember, this group was decelerated because they were making errors. So, and they didn't get gains in reading rate. And I think we have to see how these children can be accelerated. I like to see the results in this group, if they could be accelerated or slightly accelerated. I think the first session of this program is important because in this session the reading rate is established, and probably some of them in this first session were, they were not paying attention, so the reading rate they got was not their real reading rate, and something of that I think happened. So we have to be careful for next time with that. And yeah, I like to figure out a way of accelerating these children, not accelerating them. And as you see in this table, the best level of, or the best scores of reading comprehension were on the self-paced test, not in the fast-paced test. Although there is no big difference between fast-paced and self-paced, but still they achieve better in the self-paced test. And probably, as I have read in other articles, it's because they have to switch. They are used to read slowly, and in Spain also it's difficult to convince the teachers that they can read faster. They think that they need to read slowly and paying attention. So probably switching from one route to another, it needs more time. We have seen transfer effects in rapid automatized naming and pseudo reading time and symbol search, and probably this training improved the visual sensitivity and the visual processing speed while improving discrimination. Well, this is a first study, but we have to see. And we didn't have transfer effects to reading comprehension and spelling. And I think they need more practice to have to really see effects in reading comprehension. I think children need more practice, because if we think that they only did 20 sessions, 20 days, 30 minutes, I think it's not enough. So they need more training to improve reading comprehension. And I was thinking also, I don't know, if reconsider the project parameters for next time. Probably they were too demanding. I have read another articles, and I think the parameters are not as demanding as in this experiment, but I am not sure. I am considering this possibility. And since our children have problems with spelling, with the lexical units, I think we have to move beyond the sentence level to the lexical units and also to the text. But I think this first experiment it has been very interesting, and it's a good foundation, it's a good base to start to explore the acceleration phenomenon with different lexical units. And I have listening to other presentations from other countries, and I think I have learned, or I have here 2 new ideas, and see what we can do with the implementation for the program to be more profitable for children. And thank you.
think what is very interesting that the speed of processing, naming and symbol search really changed, and maybe some of the underlines, the warm-up, I don't know, the underline factors, the gain in the underline and not yet in the acceleration in the language system. It's not, so it probably has to do also with the language itself.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
After seeing the other